Josh Arnold, investment consultant, brings you Garage Logic Podcast number 1561. And it's going to be a doozy. June 11th, 2025. 96 degrees on this day in that record-setting year of 1956. 40 degrees on this day in 1903. Call Josh Arnold at 952-925-5608 for a free 48-minute consultation.
Hail the flashlight king.
Hail you!
And now, from the mayor's office above the boathouse on the east shore of Spoon Lake, it's Garage Logic with Chris Reavers manning Technology Corner, Kenny Olson from the Krabby Coffee Shop, John Heidt in the newsroom, and of course, the rookie. Here is your flashlight king, fireworks commissioner, and the keeper of common sense, your mayor, Joe Soucheray.
Can you do the camera to get a picture of this, or did you already do that?
I took a photo and I sent it to the fellas.
We got 1, 2.
Would you like me to
3,
tweet it
4,
out to the
5.
masses?
Yeah, you should tweet it, Chris.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
I came in today, and among the emails was just a very brief email from an emailer wondering if the George Floyd riots were merely a tune-up for what was to come, and what was to come is... and then he linked me to something called Indivisible. Turns out I started going down a rabbit hole. Indivisible Twin Cities as a chapter of Indivisible America. Indivisible is a progressive movement and organization in the U.S. initiated in 2016 as a reaction to the election of Trump. The movement's organizational leadership includes the Indivisible Project, the Indivisible Civics, and Indivisible Action. The movement began with the online publication of a handbook written by congressional staffers with suggestions for peacefully but effectively resisting the move to the right in the executive branch of the U.S. government under the Trump administration that they anticipated and feared. The progressives feared it. According to Peter Dreyer, the goal of Indivisible is to save American democracy and resume the project of creating a humane America that is more like a social democracy. The Indivisible's founders were Leah Greenberg and Ezra Levin. They were included in Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People of 2019. So there's a national movement called the Indivisible Movement. And that leads to the discovery that there is a group called Indivisible Twin Cities. Indivisible Twin Cities is a local chapter of National Indivisible, a grassroots group of volunteers dedicated to increasing civic engagement and education on progressive policies. At the city, state, and national level, we encourage civic engagement by organizing informative actions and events. And there's a weekend event right here in Minnesota, and it's going to be called No Kings. And it turns out the No Kings National Day of Defiance is going to be held throughout the country. This has all been sprung from what's happening in Los Angeles. But it sounds like progressives and democratic socialists plan to so-called protest, particularly in the cities closer you get to the country's tallest buildings run by Democrats. So on Saturday, we have the No Kings protest organized by Indivisible. And that's going to be meet at 11 a.m. at St. Paul College. And the march begins at 12 p.m. And apparently the brunt of the afternoon will be held or beginning at 1 p.m. at the Minnesota State Capitol. That's this Saturday. And, John, how many sponsors does Indivisible America have? You counted what, 200?
I looked up the No Kings.
I'm sorry, No Kings.
208.
And I don't have the time on this podcast to read you all of the sponsors in Minnesota, but they include Women's March Minnesota, AFL-CIO. There's a toolkit. There's press announcement, protesting, know your rights, how to make signs, and where to donate, and this goes on and on and on and on.
It looks like they have a bunch of Zoom type of meetings tonight, tomorrow, and then next Monday after it's all over.
And then we go to
A recap.
I discovered that who's driving the printing of all of this, and it's just dozens and dozens of pages. Who's printing it is Mobilize America, and I looked up Mobilize America, and I think it's safe to say that Mobilize America is merely an American technology platform and network that allows volunteers to sign up for events such as rallies, virtual meetings, canvassing, phone banking, and getting out the vote. It was formed in May of 2017 by Alan Kramer and Al Johnson. The platform is used by Democratic Party candidates, progressive organizations, and nonprofits used to recruit and mobilize volunteers, but all on the left side of the political aisle. I'm sure the right has something like this, but I'm unaware of it being this thorough. So all over the country this weekend are going to be planned No King protests. I guess I'm offering this as an example of don't buy the idea that these are spontaneously popping up. This is a well-oiled organization. Mobilize America was sold in November of 2020 to Every Action, the parent company of NGP Van. NGP Van is an American privately owned voter database and web hosting service provider used by the Democratic Party, Democratic campaigns, and other nonprofit organizations authorized by the Democratic Party. The platform or service is used by political and social campaigns for fundraising, campaign finance compliance, field organization, and digital organizations. NGP Van was formerly known as Voter Activation Network, Inc. The company was founded in 2001 and is based in Washington, D.C. It is the largest partisan provider of campaign compliance software used by most Democratic members of Congress. The company's services have been utilized by clients such as the Obama 2008 presidential campaign, the Obama 2012 presidential campaign, the Hillary Clinton 2016 presidential campaign, the Bernie Sanders 2016 presidential campaign, and the British Liberal Democrats and the Liberal Party of Canada. So it's a very partisan company, but they get paid. I suspect how it works is that Betty McCollum, for example, I'm just guessing this is how it works. She tells her people, we need some more information on the voting situation in my ward in St. Paul, and maybe you call up Mobilize, and they provide that, and then you have to pay them. Which is why politicians are always raising money. They have to pay these outfits.
It's a political campaign software type of program, where they help with fundraising, marketing, event management, compliance, and other things. They have a blog and all sorts of sources where you can get in contact with them.
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting you brought Betty up because I do have audio of her and Pete Hegseth.
I heard that today, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe later.
Gotcha.
The NGP Van subsequently has been sold to Apax Partners.
I can barely keep up here. APAC?
Yep.
A lot of arrows.
That's a British private equity firm headquartered in London. They also have offices in New York, Hong Kong, Mumbai, Tel Aviv, Munich, and Shanghai. As of March 2024, the firm had raised and advised funds of approximately $77 billion. Apax is one of the oldest and largest private equity firms operating on an international basis. I'm not suggesting anything nefarious or insidious about anything I've said so far. What I can say is that Apax partners must have bought a NGP van, which had previously purchased Mobilize America, because they see money to be made. Mm-hmm. I mean, they own dog food companies and apparel companies and, watch companies. They're an equity firm. They own stuff. They own $77 billion worth of stuff. And among their holdings is NGP Van. Now, there was some controversy about that because I have a history of Apax's investments. And we go down to...
Let me guess, BlackRock is somehow involved.
Oh, we go down to in 2020. No, let me find it. In 2021, Apax acquired NGP Van for $2 billion.
Oh,
so this firm, acting on behalf of Democratic candidates, Democratic socialists, the likes of Bernie Sanders. Apparently, it was worth $2 billion to Apax to acquire it. NPG Van, through Mobilize America, handled voter registration information for the Democratic Party. During the 2024 presidential election, teams working for Kamala Harris fixed flaws in the system, and some questioned whether, I suppose this means the people involved with Apax, some question whether a private equity firm should be handling such data. Well, that didn't stop them. Their following purchase, by the way, just to show you what they do, is they bought Old Smoky Distillery, a Gatlinburg, Tennessee-based spirits company. They own all kinds of stuff. But among what they own is this group that does the homework for Democrats, all of whom, since at least 2016, have been united in the belief that Trump would take the country in the wrong direction. All of whom, to my way of thinking, are Mysterians. And they have behind them incredibly well-oiled machine. All of this is a long way of saying that whatever happens in L.A. today, whatever's going to happen in St. Paul on Saturday, whatever's going to happen in Austin, Texas, and Chicago and New York, that's very well organized. There is nothing spontaneous about this.
So this has been in the works for quite some time.
This is highly, highly organized. And I look at the size of the sheaf of paper I have. This is just for Saturday's event in St. Paul.
That's one full oak tree.
That's an oak tree.
There. Yeah.
Are you noticing a pattern? As you were laying this all out, were you noticing a pattern? Remove, is it called indivisible? Is that what it's called?
Indivisible is
Remove that and insert BLM, and you have a repeat of 2020. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same
I think BLM,
template.
by the way, I think a safe bet would be to say that BLM is fading into the background.
Oh, yeah. Which is why they needed a new cause.
And it appears to be getting replaced by immigrants, legal or illegal.
They plan on shutting down the Lake Street Marshall Bridge today. This afternoon.
All right.
Why today?
From what I'm seeing on the internet.
Well, do we even know that that's part of the No Kings protest? Now, tonight...
Or it's just more road construction.
Tonight, getting ready to protest on No Kings Day, join the Minnesota ACLU for a Minnesota-specific Know Your Rights training. You'll leave prepared to show up safely and confidently at this nonviolent action, whether you're marching, rallying, or supporting from the sidelines. You'll learn how to protect yourself, your community, and stand up for your rights. Okay, a rhetorical question. Have you, John Heidt, lost any rights since Trump was elected?
Not yet.
Do you anticipate losing any rights?
I don't know. Maybe. Could happen. Could happen.
Okay, but you haven't lost any rights yet. Do you know any black people who have lost any rights?
No.
What we're seeing is not only have we not lost any rights, what we're seeing is the assignation given to illegals that they should have rights, and therefore they've lost them because of Trump. And so the law is being followed in terms of our immigration policies, but the Democrats, as organized as they are opposing that. They're opposing the enforcement of the law. Now, where that will lead, I don't know yet, but that's what's happening.
I've noticed the convenient dropping of the word illegal immigrants. They now just refer to illegals as immigrants.
But it's the movement of the Democratic Party to oppose the enforcement of the law because they have made that analogous to opposing Trump.
Well, yeah, the rallying cry is "Orange Man bad."
Trump represents the law, no matter how difficult and crudely he enforces it. So to oppose enforcing the law, I'm afraid we're looking at this all summer. Yesterday I said the country's up for grabs. I'll amend that. The law is up for grabs.
Oh, good.
Whether the law is enforced is up for grabs.
You're looking at this for the rest of his presidency. It doesn't matter what happens. I mean, there's going to be protests.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
SEIU is involved.
So fast forward to when
St. Paul Federation of Educators is allowed. This is all I'm reading about the King's protest. American Association of University Professors, Veterans Against the War, Council 65 of AFSCME, Black Lives Matter, Democratic Socialists of America, Twin Cities Chapter, Friends of the Boundary Waters. It's on and on. Gender Justice Action.
And there's like we said, there's 208 national King Matters.
And I'm just reading the
sponsors.
locals. Yeah. Immigrant Defense Network, Indivisible South Metro, Minnesota.
It's
Minnesota Abortion Action Committee.
It's also not a new thing, Joe. I know we talked before the show. You said you hadn't heard of it, so I went and looked back because I had heard of it a long time ago.
The new Kings part?
Yeah.
No Kings, I mean?
Yeah, at least since February. That's the first mention I saw of it, the No Kings movement.
Because somehow the president, love him or hate him, enforcing the law has allowed a very large segment of the American population to believe that is something only a king would do. So the law is really in question here.
For sure.
The law is up for grabs. And we're going to see it all summer long, I'm afraid. And we're going to see it here as soon as Saturday. Now, it's all couched in pleasantries. This is peaceful. Here, make sure you have sunblock and your sun hat, and here's where we're going to stand, and here's where we're going to meet. And so far, I don't think any trucks have unloaded cement blocks. I don't know exactly where you'd throw them here at the Capitol. They're not gathering ostensibly to throw anything. We're here to say we don't want to be ruled by a king. And nor do I. At this moment, I don't feel that I am ruled by a king.
Do you think Trump is a convenient and, I would use the word convenient scapegoat in this case? Do you think this would be happening if any Republican president was in the White House right now?
Good question.
I don't think any other Republican would use the executive action thing as much as widely, shall we say, as Trump has. I don't, and I'm almost to the position where I think presidents shouldn't be able to, after the last, 4 presidencies, where all of a sudden it's grown from maybe 25 during a presidency to 300.
Hundreds.
Oh, you talking about executive actions?
Yes.
Yeah.
To answer Kenny's question, I would say, based on our growing understanding of the ideology of the opposition, I do believe that any Republican president, no matter how civil and intelligent, would be met with this opposition.
But Trump being there is extra good for their side.
Right, because he looks stupid and he's not appealing.
Well, in their
he's
opinion,
mean-spirited.
Yeah, in their opinion, he looks stupid.
Right.
And just bringing up something we mentioned yesterday, someone sent us a piece, you guys, about President Bush did call on the National Guard in 1992 for the Rodney King. Mm-hmm. It's a Time magazine piece. Mm-hmm. I think
did it
really
was it through the state though, or in other words, that's not the crux of what the argument everybody's using is.
Okay.
The crux is that Trump bypassed the state.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I don't know if Bush did.
Well, then all you're looking for is the knowledge of, did George Bush call up the governor of California?
I have it here. Bush called up the National Guard under the Insurrection Act, which authorizes.
Okay, so he did.
They did it the same way Trump's doing.
Right. So I guess that's the point I was. Yeah. So thank you to the emailer. It was Michael. Michael sent the.
Regarding were you going to say something, Joe?
I was just going to say, actually, he's not doing it exactly the same way, Joe, because he hasn't invoked the Insurrection Act.
He invoked some other act.
Yes. Okay.
That I used to know. I had it in front of me. I don't know.
Well, you've got too many papers there.
Yes, you got a lot of.
By the way, I don't think they use oak trees to make paper. Anyway,
Heather Mueller. Oh, wait, no, what do I have written down in front of me?
Chantel Allen. Anyway,
Jody Harpstaff.
Joe, regarding the BRICS, if you go to the No Kings website, you scroll to the very bottom. I want to read you this paragraph. A core principle. Take 2. A core principle behind all No Kings events is a commitment to nonviolent action. We expect all participants to seek to de-escalate any potential confrontation with those who disagree with our values and to act lawfully at these events. Weapons of any kind, including those legally permitted, should not be brought to events. Now, I will say this is the very bottom of the page, and it's in small print. But it's there.
Right. I hope they're right.
Yeah.
Right.
But to me, this is another example of progressives are really well organized. Really well organized.
Brings up another question I've been meaning to ask you for the last 20 minutes. Is there anything on the Republican side of the aisle that's the equivalent? Maybe there is. We don't know about it. We haven't researched it.
There are certainly groups, Citizens United, American Conservative Union,
okay,
Turning Point. There's
okay,
Heritage Foundation.
Not only, well, Heritage Foundation's a think tank.
Yeah, conservative think tank. They don't organize. That's just what I was saying.
These aren't think tanks. These are get your ass out on the street groups.
Yeah.
And they're terribly well organized about it, but something else seems to ring true. This is pretty much what they do.
Right.
It's
a full-time gig.
It's a gig.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. That's what
just like we're seeing in Minneapolis. The progressives, if you asked a progressive, what are you doing for a living, they would say, oh, I'm an activist.
Homemaker.
I'm a homemaker. But all of this is just to say that whatever is going to happen this summer is organized. It's not happening organically. This is organized. And it goes all the way to a company in London that probably has no idea that there's a No Kings protest in St. Paul, Minnesota. Just a company they happen to own that gets fees from political operatives who are working for political candidates.
Homemaker.
Yeah.
Homemaker.
Yeah.
There's even protests planned on the St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, and the British Virgin Islands.
Oh, that's where I'm going to protest. I'm going to the Virgin Islands.
I bet that'd be a pretty chill protest,
For
right?
sure.
It involves lawn chairs.
Anyone need a drink?
Yeah. Umbrellas
Over
for
here.
shade.
I can tell you where
More
there's
rum?
not going to be a protest.
Where's that, Joe?
Probably not in Anguilla, where we're number one.
Well, that's why I was
I just
looking
don't
down
think
there.
there'd
And
be
I'm
a
not. Yeah.
Why am
I'm
I
not-
unplugged here?
He's
No wonder I couldn't hear. Just a minute. No
Listen
singing
to him.
today.
You're breaking
Just
the rules.
Let me
Joe.
put this back in here. God,
The best thing is
dang
when you
it.
can't hear, you immediately start talking louder.
Way more. He talks way more and louder with his $3 headphones.
Right.
The guy makes a pretty good living. At least that's what Marjorie told me. You can at least buy a real set of headphones.
yeah, these are wonderful headphones. Take care of your garage door. Get it done in the summer. You don't want to be wrestling with it when it's 40 below. And if you need a new door, get a hold of Precision Door. Yes, Precision Door take care of the everyday service calls. They're wonderful at that. They serve western Wisconsin and the entire metro area, but they also install new garage doors. They have models for every budget. They send out their own designer. That consultation is free of charge. And bing, bang, boom, you end up with a new door. And if you end up with a new door right now from Precision Door, they're throwing in the motor that lifts it. That's a value of more than $760. You can book online at precisiondoormn.com, or you can call Precision Door, make an appointment at 612-263-6985.
Reavers here once again for my guy, Mr. Money Talk, Josh Arnold. Does thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable? Well, sometimes the anxiety from wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? Well, Mr. Money Talk is going to be able to sit down with you and get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk, never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute, no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608 and set up your free 48-minute, no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Chris Reavers is a paid endorser.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and he feels fine. Joe Souchere.
All right, take it down before we get sued.
What a great tune.
That's Carl singing, but Brian's playing. We'll get you that news after Kenny.
In a second here. I'm not sure if Seafoam likes it when I refer to Bugs Be Gone as some kind of voodoo or supernatural magic. I don't know what the only explanation could be. Because it removes everything. Dried on bugs, big squishy, those big fat ones where blood and yellow gunk oozes out. And not just bugs, though. Anything organic, algae, mildew, brake dust, road grime, anything you can come up with, Bugs Be Gone works. It's a wonderful pre-soak before washes. And while you're sitting in line, just spray your windshield down. It works on virtually every surface without harming that surface. That's what I don't get. It's a water-activated formula. No harsh chemicals or odors. I'm used to using harsh chemicals with a big stink to make things work. No, that's not the case with Bugs Be Gone. It works on everything, and it's safe for the environment. Get yourself some today. As a matter of fact, get a couple of bottles. Here's what you're going to do. Get 4 bottles. 2 for yourself, 2 for friends. They will love you forever for it. This is a wonderful gift. It's pure magic. And like other Seafoam products, it works better than anything else on the shelf. It's absolutely the best. And, well, no surprise since it comes from our folks at Seafoam.
John, you've been distracted. Tell us why.
The announcement this morning that Brian Wilson, who is, of course, the leader and chief songwriter of the Beach Boys, has died at the age of 82. No cause of death was given, but you'll remember back in early 2024, his wife said that he was suffering from a major neurocognitive disorder and had been diagnosed with dementia. So from that point, I'm guessing he slipped downhill and he has passed away at the age of 82.
What an era that ends.
Yep.
Sly Stone yesterday, Brian Wilson today.
Yeah.
Is Beach Boys top band all time for you?
They're certainly in my top 5.
Yeah.
I've seen him perform twice, maybe 3 times. I've just that's just amazing.
Why did he have his nervous breakdown?
Because he couldn't stand there were so many problems in his life.
Yeah.
His father.
His father was crazy. And he was eating copious amounts of LSD also at the time.
Okay.
So
Yep.
He didn't like to travel. He had terrible anxiety attacks, and
he preferred just to sit in the studio
Yeah.
and tinker,
Yeah.
basically.
When tripping is your normal, when you're back to normal, normal isn't normal anymore.
yeah.
Especially when you eat that much blotter or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Well, for 35 years he hadn't touched anything.
Right, but what I'm
But
saying
the
is that
damage done was done.
yeah,
But he-
that affects the brain makeup.
And he didn't play with them a long time. And in fact, I don't mean this to be an FYI. It may be taken that way, Joe. I'm sorry. But he had nothing to do with their version of I Can Hear Music. Didn't
No,
play
I
on
know,
it or
I know.
anything.
Yeah.
And because he was sitting out, because he was
That's
not
a Chris
able,
Reavers issue, Chuck.
he was not able to.
I did not know that because it's labeled Brian Wilson.
Well, it's
in the
Beach
system.
Boys. It's Carl and the gang, but
Gotcha.
That was an FYI, by the way.
Yeah, well,
We had Polad on, remember?
Bill Polad.
Bill Polad
Yeah.
produced really the best film ever about the Beach Boys, and we had Bill Polad on, and I think Bill was just on pins and needles being with us because we aren't his cup of tea.
Right.
But I think he ended up.
Is that a track record thing with you guys?
Well, no, I just think he ended up enjoying the.
Yes,
in
he
fact,
did.
I wish that could be dug up and replayed.
I'll look up. 'Cause we're going to
Especially-
have some best stuff coming up.
Especially given this news. Holy
Bill,
mackerel.
what's the name of the documentary?
I'll find it.
It's not a documentary.
So it was a
a
movie.
feature film.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I can't remember who played Brian.
Two people did, right? Wasn't Cusack one of them? John Cusack?
Yeah, and he didn't look anything like Brian Wilson, but it worked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, John Cusack's a good actor.
Right.
There's a great quote. The New York Times, as we've talked about, love them or hate them, do the best obits.
Yeah.
They have a long obit of Brian already online, and they have a quote from Bob Dylan. And the quote is, "That ear, I mean, Jesus, he's got to will that to the Smithsonian." About Brian Wilson.
Love
Yeah.
and Mercy.
Love and Mercy was the
2014.
Bill Polad produced that. It was just wonderful. Makes me want to watch it again now.
Directed it as well.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. John Cusack, Paul Dano, Elizabeth Banks, and Paul Giamatti.
Could we have Bill on again, maybe? Would that be worth
Boy, that'd be a long shot. I don't even know where he is. I'm sure he lives in L.A. now.
Okay.
You know.
We can
Wasn't
complain to
Carl once asked, you know how to become a millionaire?
Yes. Do you want to know how to become a millionaire?
Yeah.
Be a billionaire and have your son go make movies.
Produce movies.
Produce movies.
That's why they can't get any pitching.
Yes.
All right, that's a shame. Brian Wilson, that's amazing.
How many of the original members are left?
Al Jardine and Mike Love.
But Jardine has his own band. He doesn't
Yeah.
tour with the Beach Boys.
Yeah. But he's an original member.
Correct.
And
Bruce
Mike Love's
Johnston.
Bruce Johnston's not an original member.
He is not, but he's been there since about
Right.
65. He took
Right.
Brian's place when Brian started to lose it.
Right.
Bruce Johnston took his place and has been there ever since.
Do they still tour?
Yeah.
They're here.
And then
aren't they, pretty soon?
Brian, before he was really undone by the brain problem. He was touring. He came here a couple of times, and his outfit was a group of worshipers who nailed. I mean, if a Coke can was hit in the studio to make a sound, they had that Coke can on stage. They were.
In the early
Worshippers of
90s, one of the people in his band was Steve Dahl from the Loop FM, AM, FM in Chicago. Steve Dahl was the guy responsible for Disco Demolition.
Yeah.
Disc jockey with, chops would go out and play with Brian.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, where were we? Oh, well-oiled machine producing a summer. I think it's going to be a summer of discontent because the mystery has gotten to the point where the law is something they merely choose to recognize if it benefits them. If it doesn't, I suppose you could make the argument that the left has always wanted illegals for cheap labor.
I think
dating all the way back to slavery.
Well, yeah. Isn't it mostly votes? Votes, though? That's the only thing I can come up with.
Yes, because people are moving. That's a good point. Another thing that might be happening in the United States is the closer you get to the country's tallest buildings, they're being hollowed out of, let's just say, garage logicians. They're moving. They don't want any part of this BS.
I'm Kenny.
Right, Kenny did it. You don't live in the city. Heidt doesn't live in the city. Rookie, you don't live in St. Paul. I'm the only sap still stuck
still live in the city.
In the middle of the sustainable urban core. But for the most part, many people are leaving. And to replace the bodies so they can continue to get money, you need to replace the bodies somehow. So in this case, it might be illegal immigrants.
Are you saying voting or are you saying congressional seats?
Both.
Okay.
And I did some homework on Jason Chavez, who I still want on the air, but you haven't been able to accomplish that. And I think you should be ashamed of yourself.
You know what I'll do? I'll swing by his house and I'll invite him in.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay. I'm sure he'd be thrilled with that.
Well, I mean, here's who represent us. Now, tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. at the, where the hell is this? The Hook and Ladder. Is that a brewery?
No, what is it?
The Hook and Ladder. The print's so small I can't read it. It's a gathering place. And there's going to be the Jason Chavez for Ward 9 Pride event, a drag show fundraiser, and it's family friendly.
It's a theater and lounge.
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of good bands play there, actually.
All right. So there's a big drag show tomorrow for Jason. Well, that's not at all unusual for the people who support Jason Chavez, would be my estimation. Not unusual at all. He represents Ward 9. Ward 9 is smack dab in the middle of Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm. Hiawatha runs right through the middle of Ward 9. It's bordered on the north by 24th Street and on the south by both 36th and 38th Street.
Right. And it includes the neighborhoods of Central, Corcoran, Midtown Phillips, East Phillips, Howe, Longfellow, and Powderhorn Park. Densely populated, mostly diverse. It includes the largest urban American Indian population, the largest Latino population, a strong East African community, and a progressive LGBTQ community. I would add as an aside, I'm unaware of an LGBTQ community that would not be progressive.
Does that get the horn? Because they're using community?
Nah,
okay.
Nah, the hell with the horn.
I thought I'd ask.
So is it any wonder that the city is represented by the likes of Jason Chavez? There's just not a lot of GLers in Ward 9.
No.
They are.
There are some.
Just not listed.
But there's not a chance in hell a GLer could win that seat.
Yeah, no, they're not They're not the preferred.
Well, even the
demographic.
Yeah, you use this all the time. The lefties that aren't left enough don't even get voted in.
Right. You gotta be way left to win Ward 9. I mean, Chavez will reach the point where he ain't left enough.
Right. Someone's going to out-left him.
But there's parks in Ward 9, and there's schools and libraries in Ward 9. And
Powderhorn.
Certainly homeowners in Ward 9, but they're not the kind of homeowners that are predisposed to be anti-progressivism. They're progressives.
Those two neighborhoods, Joe, Midtown Phillips and East Phillips. Lock your doors, kids.
Yeah. And
Lots of crime there.
And so it's not unusual at all that a key fundraising event for Jason Chavez would be a drag show. There's a picture here of the. I think it features Stardust, which must be this guy's drag show name, because it's a drag guy, see, with the beard and the whole deal.
Yes.
Stardust.
Yeah, Stardust is what we got there.
Yeah.
We have a caller on the line that's going to ask you a question.
Are you going?
Are you going?
No, I'm not. I can't make it. I can't make it.
Can you imagine sitting at a drag show?
The hell is this?
Where's the party?
You're planning a fundraiser and you're thinking, what event, what could I do that's going to draw in the most people, the most diverse crowd? Not only do I want all those people you listed, but I want the crackers too. I want the moms, the dads, the grandma. And then they settle on that.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like it's something that would bring people together. I don't have a problem with it, but from your reaction, I can see that it's probably not going to bring a lot of people like you there to the table.
No, but how many people like me are in Ward 9?
Well, that's the question.
You said if you were planning an event to bring moms and dads and everything.
Yeah, what do you do?
That's not what they want. That's not who their constituents are. Their constituents aren't a nuclear American family.
Yeah.
Their constituents are people who go to drag fests.
Okay.
The progressive left.
Yeah.
I think if it were me, I would also have like some sort of lumberjack contest at the same time, just to bring everybody in.
Yeah, but you wouldn't in that ward.
But I would show up. I'd be there.
Rookies throwing axes in the sustainable urban core.
Where you are up in the wilderness, you'd have a lumberjack contest.
Yeah, or Stillwater, but
not in Ward 9. Ward 9 is about as urban as you get. That's it.
Yeah.
Only more urbaner.
Out in the country, we call that the inner city. That's the
only thing more
city.
urbaner than Ward 9 would be, Hennepin Avenue would be more urbaner. That's it.
More urbaner.
Yeah.
That's an urbaner area. Oh, what a time to tell you about Sioux Falls.
No doubt.
Perfect.
Yeah. I thought I could, but no bleeping idea where the copy is.
Talking South Dakota, the largest growing city in South Dakota. Right down there on the border.
How you know this?
Look, if you're planning to move your business, expand your business, start a new business, maybe you want to consider Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, largest city in South Dakota, 300,000 people in a real business-friendly state. Also, Empower votes Sioux Falls the #1 most affordable city in the country. Its banks hold $3.5 trillion in assets, which I continue to believe must mean good loan opportunities. Forbes magazine says Sioux Falls is the best small city for business and careers. It's really happening. We're showing you a video right now. The industrial parks are under construction. The city is vibrant, friendly people, and best of all, there's no corporate or state income tax. Entrepreneurs are welcome. Contact the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. Sioux Falls Development, one word, SiouxFallsDevelopment.com.
The earth is not your mother. The Joe Souchere Show.
Here's John Heidt.
Here's Kenny Olson.
With what?
With
You
a
gotta
song
tell
from
me.
Brian Wilson.
I thought I did.
Oh my
Here's John Heidt in the newsroom. We'll get back to Kenny
Okay.
Olson shortly.
All right. Give me more time to yell at Chris then.
Yes. Didn't mean to make everybody angry.
Thank you, Joe. Or Chris, whoever threw it to me there. And let me remind you, this news is brought to you by North American Banking Company. Authorities say a man and a woman are dead after a domestic incident and an officer-involved shooting in rural Albert Lee early last evening. According to the Freeborn County Sheriff's Office, deputies called to the 21,000 block of 880th Avenue just before 7:15 for what was described as a domestic disturbance that may have involved a gun. However, the suspect left the address and was eventually found by Mower County deputies who began chasing his vehicle. The man then returned to the home, got out of the car. That's when Sheriff's Office says law enforcement members fired their guns. After searching the property, officers found a woman who had died before police got to the address, according to the Sheriff's Office. Neither the man nor the woman's names and ages have been released. Freeborn County authorities say the involved officers have been placed on leave. Minnesota BCA is investigating the incident. Star Tribune reporting federal searches conducted in 8 places across the Twin Cities metro area last week were sparked by the discovery of more than 900 pounds of methamphetamine in a Burnsville storage unit. That, according to an indictment filed yesterday. The raids were authorized by a judge May 30th as part of an investigation into a drug trafficking organization. They took place after a prior and unrelated search of the storage unit turned up concealed vials of crystal meth estimated to be worth $22 to $25 million. The details were included in the indictment against 27-year-old Isabel Lopez of St. Paul, who is charged with assaulting, resisting, and impeding certain officers or employees as part of the protests on East Lake Street in Minneapolis. The searches carried out June 3rd in Burnsville, Bloomington, Inver Grove Heights, Lakeville, Minneapolis, and Northfield. Started at 6 in the morning, culminated in an encounter between protesters and law enforcement at the restaurant. The crowd clashed with officers over worries an immigration raid was underway. The details contained in the indictment reveal the impetus for the searches was the desire to seize evidence related to a large and ongoing investigation into drug trafficking, money laundering, human trafficking, and firearms violations for an entity with ties to transnational criminal organizations. Agents in the court filing said the searches of the Northfield residence turned up 2 gold-plated firearms with adornment similar to other weapons used by and seized from narcotics traffickers. In a search at a Burnsville business, agents seized portraits of fictional drug trafficker Tony Montana, famously portrayed by Al Pacino in the 1983 movie Scarface. Those kind of homage images are regularly observed by law enforcement in the homes and businesses of those involved in the drug and related money laundering trades, according to the indictment.
2 things. One, in the unlikely event I ever get to interview Jason Chavez, I would ask him if he's in favor of human trafficking. And 2,
call me now.
These agencies always work with each other. If ICE was present, they were working with other sheriffs and law enforcement.
Right.
But the professional activists who are standing by and ready to burn the city believed it was an ICE situation. No, ICE was there helping other people. It had nothing to do with...
So what you're saying is don't let the facts get in the way of your activism.
That's right. I would just like to know if the people who govern Minneapolis are in favor of human trafficking.
Sure.
Yeah.
I, too, have 2 things. The serious one first. What James Bond movie does this remind you of? Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
The other thing, I'm wondering if we've heard from the various county commissioners, city council members, and big shot influencers on social media about what they said then and what they should be saying now after we find out what happened.
I bet we haven't. We've never heard from a Democrat in California decrying the violence in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And Newsom is merely a sleazeball who's trying to turn this into political gain for himself.
What's her name? Maxine Waters was asked, and she said most of it's being blown out of proportion. meaning the riots in L.A., that most of the video isn't real.
Why? I have another question. I know we're interfering with John's newscast, but why is Karen Bass even still the mayor?
Right.
Wouldn't the fire have been enough to get rid of her somehow? Impeach her? Do some damn thing.
When I heard 900 pounds Joe found recovered, the first thing I thought is, how can I make a bigger deal out of this than it is? And I came up with 900 pounds is almost half a ton. So that's how I would say it if I wrote the news. Almost half a ton of meth.
And we should ask the representatives in Minneapolis if they're in favor of fentanyl addiction in addition to human traffic.
Yeah.
What was the rejected James Bond title to the man with the golden gun?
The man with the golden one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They couldn't go with that one.
Yes.
The judge presiding over the burglary trial of Minnesota State Senator Nicole Mitchell has denied her motion to dismiss one of the 2 charges filed against her. Jury selection begins Monday for Mitchell, who is charged with 1 count of first-degree burglary and 1 count of possession of burglary or theft tools. Both are felonies. She has entered not guilty pleas for both charges. She's accused of using a crowbar to break into her stepmother's home in Detroit Lakes in April of 2024. Mitchell had filed a motion to have the burglary tool possession charge thrown out, but Judge Michael Fritz denied that request late yesterday afternoon. Mitchell, a DFL senator who represents Woodbury, says she was at the home to retrieve items belonging to her father, who had recently passed away. Court is scheduled to begin Monday, 8:30 in the morning in Becker County.
So this cuckoo clock is finally going to a courtroom, finally.
Monday morning.
All right.
Yep.
She had the burglar clown costume on, though, like when the guys would crawl through the tunnel and then come out of the stump on Hogan's Heroes. They were always wearing that black hat, knit hat, and put black stuff on their face.
Yeah.
After much discussion, the Red Wing School District will be able to keep its logo, its mascot, and name. Red Wing was named after Chief Red Wing, and the high school has been called the Wingers for decades. The school uses a red feather and eagle for their logo and mascot.
Wait a minute. Somebody found that logo offensive?
Oh, John, Reavers, you haven't heard the worst of it.
Language in the education bill passed by the legislature changes a law that required all of Minnesota's tribal nations to approve mascots, logos, and names. Now the law requires approval from only the tribal nation closest to the school. And the Prairie Island Indian Community Tribal Council supports the Red Wing School District.
Wow.
Representative Pam Altendorf, a Republican from Red Wing, said the language was put back in the bill during the working group, and Red Wing schools will be able to avoid the mascot change with the permission of Prairie Island Indian Community to keep the current logo.
How could the use of a feather, the likeness of an eagle, and the term winger be considered derogatory?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I've played 10 million games in Red Wing. I've seen that logo 1,000. It's not even offensive in the least.
I saw the logo today for the first time, and I thought, there's not even...
There's nothing Native American about it.
Yeah, about the logo. Nothing at all.
Oh.
Well, and the community works in concert with that.
Are the Detroit Red Wings named for a Native American chief?
Let's look.
Why don't you look that up while John continues?
Well, actually, I'm going to now send it to Mr. Reavers.
Look it up while Reavers talks slowly.
This might be difficult. Do you know why,
No,
Joe?
you can do it.
I know. But look at that. I'm going to talk about our friends at Harmony Spirits, located in Harmony, Minnesota. And I got a text from Larry this morning. He says, Reeves, just wanted to let you know, the slushy machine is up and running in Harmony, Minnesota at Harmony Spirits. You can get a pina colada slushy or a root beer float slushy with a booze of your choice. Ooh. What a refreshing spring, summertime drink there in Harmony, Minnesota. Here's the deal, too. They have a very cool Facebook page, and on that Facebook page, you can see all sorts of upcoming events that they're having, both in the tasting room and around the great city of Harmony, Minnesota. But the best thing that you can do is go into your local liquor store and ask for the Harmony brand by name. That is how the great folks at Harmony Spirits are going to continue to grow their brand. Let me see here. Oh, and don't forget about the car show. Make plans for the car show the week of the 4th of July. Anyway, Go on their website, too. It's harmonyspirits.net, and they have all their events coming up as well. But like I said, go into your local liquor store, ask for the Harmony brand by name, and it doesn't really matter whether you're in the mood for gin, vodka, rum, whatever the case might be. Their bourbon is top shelf. So go into the tasting room, say hi to Larry and Damon and the entire crew at Harmony Spirits, and make sure you mention that you heard about them on the Garage Logic podcast.
Here's a man who spends hours in hardware stores, sifting through the nuts and bolts of life. Joe Souchere.
Hey, we're coming back here on the Joe Souchere Show. Let's play radio. Joe, you know what's coming up next weekend?
What?
The MSRA Back to the 50s weekend. The 51st version of that right at the Minnesota State Fair. The 20th, this month, next Friday, there's going to be over 10,000 pre-64 hot rods and customs, 200 vendors, both inside and out, a swap meet, a cruise and arts craft fair, ladies showcase, kids area, and the best part, we're going to be there. GL is going to be there. We're going to lay down a podcast right around noon at O'Gara's.
That's if we get in.
Yeah, and
why couldn't we get in?
I'm joking.
Is it okay if I have a cocktail or two during the podcast?
That's up to you.
Right at O'Gara's. They're on the corner of Dan Patch and Cosgrove. So if you're going to be there, show up and say hi to us. By the way, fly over 11 a.m. on Saturday, church Sunday morning, and the Great Race. That's why we're there. The Great Race kicks off from the fairgrounds on Saturday. We're hoping to talk to a few participants. But
do we know their departure time on Saturday?
We do.
What is it?
And we're celebrating cylinders all season long. This Great Race starts at the State Fair on Saturday, ends up a week later in South Carolina.
What is the departure time?
It's noon, isn't it?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
I thought you said you knew.
No, I did not know.
Well, how the hell am I supposed to know?
I don't know.
Oh, Joe. You're such a disappointment.
It's a wonderful thing to witness.
It's like an old enduro race. You have to check in at these checkpoints right on time.
Yep.
If you're too early or if you're too late, you get points against you. You don't want that. What we want you to join us at O'Gara's noon Friday, the 20th, for the big 51st annual MSRA Back to the 50s weekend.
Thank you, Kenny. National, international news. U.S. stocks drifting higher this morning after a report suggested President Trump's tariffs aren't yet pushing inflation higher. A fear had been that Trump's wide-ranging tariffs could ignite another acceleration in inflation, just when it seemed to have gotten nearly all the way back to the Federal Reserve's 2% target from more than 9% at its peak 3 summers ago. It hasn't happened, although economists warn it's probably still coming if the tariffs remain. They're saying it could take months more to feel the full effect of the tariffs. For the time being, it looks like a lot of businesses might be pulling products they already had in their inventories rather than passing along higher costs from fresh imports.
Kenny, speaking of John's tariffs there, is there not a facetious question, is there a hardware store in Ward 9?
Yeah, it's a frat store actually on Lake Street.
We know a guy. Yeah.
Oh, Frat has one on Lake Street.
Yeah, I
okay.
used to go to it all the time. A really good hardware store.
All right.
You get inside; it's kind of new on the outside. You get inside; it's old school all the way. It's a really cool hardware store.
I don't think he'd mind me sharing the story because he did tell the story on our show. But that store led Mike to get a citation from the city. And would you guys like to know why? He had one of his employees cut the grass.
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep.
Well, who's supposed to cut it?
The city.
Bleep that.
That's what Mike said.
I'm gonna have a coughing
he
fit
said
here.
it
Hold
looks like S. Someone go out there
Bleep
and cut
that.
the grass.
Oh,
They
my
got a
God.
citation.
You mean on the boulevard?
Yes.
It's got a store full of lawnmowers, and you got to have the city cut the damn grass.
Wow.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Los Angeles police swiftly enforcing a downtown curfew last night, making arrests moments after it took effect while deploying officers on horseback and using crowd control projectiles to break up a group of hundreds demonstrating against President Trump's immigration crackdown. Members of the National Guard stood watch behind the plastic shields, didn't take part in the arrests. Hours later, many of the protesters had dispersed, although sporadic confrontations continued that were much smaller than in previous nights. Officials said the curfew was necessary to stop vandalism and theft by agitators looking to cause trouble. Demonstrations have spread to other cities nationwide last night, including Dallas and Austin, Texas, Chicago, and New York. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said yesterday the 4,000 National Guard troops will remain in Los Angeles for at least 60 days, telling members of Congress that deployment will cost about $134 million. The comments came in testimony before the House Appropriations Defense Subcommittee as it analyzed the proposed defense budget for fiscal year 2026. Members from both sides of the aisle also grilled Hegseth on the defense budget. The budget is late, and they say they're getting no information, which they say makes budgeting hard for Congress to get done.
Do you have audio that's germane to this?
Well, I had mentioned in the first segment that Hegseth was asked a question by our own Betty McCollum yesterday. Here's that exchange.
Mr. Secretary, we're both from Minnesota. I was in the Twin Cities during the riots that followed the murder of George Floyd. Tens of thousands of protesters took to the streets for days. Governor Walz made the decision to call up the Minnesota National Guard. At no point did we need the citizens of Minnesota request that the Marines be deployed. Our state and local law enforcement, along with our National Guard, who have worked on crowd control, they were more than enough. They were more than capable of handling this situation. History has proven that law enforcement and the National Guard are more than capable of handling situations more volatile than what happened this weekend.
How long does this
We all see
windbag
the
continue?
continuous loops on TV, but this looks nothing like the George Floyd protests or the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles in 1992. Mr. Secretary, this is a deeply unfair position to put our Marines in. Their service should be honored. It should not be exploited.
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for the question. You are right. We are both originally from Minnesota, which is why I recall 2020 quite well, when Governor Walz abandoned a police precinct and allowed it to be burned to the ground.
Thank you.
And also allowed 5 days of chaos to occur inside the streets of Minneapolis.
Thank you. Yeah.
Before he ever got around, because Gwen wanted to smell that burning asphalt or whatever they
Tires.
That was fun gaslighting from Betty, huh?
Oh, it sure was.
That was fun.
Betty, you got a few things wrong there.
Were you in Hawaii or something, Betty?
Maybe she was in Ghana with Karen Bass.
I was in South Minneapolis. I don't think you saw what I saw, Betts.
At least 8 people killed in Ukraine in another night of intense Russian drone and missile strikes. Ukraine's Air Force said in a post-telegram that Russia launched a total of 322 air attack vehicles into the country, among them 315 drones and 7 missiles. The Air Force said 277 drones were shot down or otherwise neutralized, as were 7 missiles. 2 people were killed, 9 others injured in the city of Odessa, according to local authorities. Among the buildings hit in the Black Sea coastal city were a maternity hospital and an emergency medical center.
Can I say something about Betty?
Let's go.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's the first time I've ever heard her speak.
You read my mind.
And she is a career unaccomplished lifer. And Betty, the protests in the riots in 2020 didn't get any closer to you than Otis Avenue, about 20 miles from your district.
Otis.
Yeah.
John's last story. When you hear the word or the town name or the city, Odessa, what do you think of?
The Odessa File.
Yeah, every single spy
Frederick
book I've
Forsyth,
ever read,
isn't it?
Ludlum and all of those guys.
I was going to say Friday Night Lights.
I think of my grandfather came from Odessa.
No
Odessa,
kidding.
Russia.
Well, that explains everything.
He
You're
moved
a
from
commie.
Odessa, Russia, to
Wasn't it Odessa?
I think of food.
Odessa. For what, Chris?
Friday Night Lights, the movie.
Oh, I don't know.
It was about the Odessa. Yeah. The question was asked, what do you think about when you hear
I asked
Odessa?
Joe. I was talking to Joe.
Well, you said it to the group.
Speaking of Frederick Forsyth, he just died. We didn't mention that yesterday, but
Yes, he
died
did.
On Monday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Is he big enough to be the third?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. No?
Well, no, I mean, the third will be a musician, probably.
Okay.
Speaking of that, we might as well say it again. Brian Wilson has died. Brian, of course, the leader and chief songwriter of the Beach Boys. He was 82 years old. His family announcing the death on Instagram didn't say where or when he died. Back in early 2024, though, after the death of his wife, Melinda Wilson, business representatives for Brian Wilson were granted a conservatorship by a California state judge after they asserted he had a major neurocognitive disorder and had been diagnosed with dementia. On mid-60s hits like Surfing USA, California Girls, and Fun, 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 he sang about Southern California. At the same time, Wilson became one of pop's most gifted and idiosyncratic. Boy, having problems with big words. Yes, thank you. Studio auteurs, crafting complex and innovative productions. That came to fruition with 1966's Pet Sounds, a song cycle that he directed in elaborate recording sessions, blending the sound of a rock band with classical instrumentation. Pet Sounds, a commercial disappointment upon its release, but has only grown in stature since. God only knows. I Just Wasn't Made for These Times. Many other songs eventually led critics and fellow musicians to honor it. And in fact, Paul McCartney once said it was Pet Sounds that blew me out of the water. I figured no one is educated musically till they've heard that album. When they made Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the Beatles used Pet Sounds as a landmark, trying to get above that.
The human body is amazing, isn't it? To think of the abuse that Sly Stone and Brian Wilson did to themselves, and they both made it to 82. Now, why did younger people not make it, I wonder, like Jim Morrison or, I don't know. The human body is not only amazing, it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really can't figure it out.
There it is.
I mean, it's trying.
And Brian, he got pretty awful just in general, weight-wise, et cetera, when he was going through his weirdness.
Well, he wasn't exactly going for a daily walk.
No, not until he met Dr. Landy, which is a whole other story.
That's a whole other story.
We could talk 10 more minutes about this easily. And
did he have the snake oil or something?
He was a snake oil salesman. He was the shrink that the family turned Brian over to, and I'm not sure.
Did he feed him psychedelics?
No, he was already done with the psychedelics by then.
Okay.
Landry was supposed to help him recover from that. And he did to a large extent, and got him in shape with walks and stuff. But he was also a controlling, conniving.
Kids, psychedelics ain't where it's at. Trust me. Don't do that.
No,
just trust me.
The one
stay
story
in school, kids.
Yeah.
One thing, the story, Brian Wilson's story that kills me is when he put the sandbox in his bedroom.
I love that story. That's the best ever.
Stayed in his bedroom with his sandbox.
And Mrs. Wilson put up with it.
Yeah, very odd. Very odd. Elon Musk stepping back from his feud with President Trump, writing on X that he now regrets some of his posts about his one-time ally. He posted early this morning.
Will you take me back?
He posted early this morning, I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far. Musk's break with the president, whom he spent hundreds of millions of dollars to elect, appeared to put an end to his influence in the White House and prompted concerns about his effects on his companies. As a major government contractor, Musk's businesses could be particularly vulnerable to any retribution, and Trump has already threatened to cut Musk's contracts. Musk earlier deleted a post in which he claimed, without evidence, that the government was concealing info about the president's association with Jeffrey Epstein. Meanwhile, other posts that irritated the president, including ones in which Musk called the spending bill an abomination and claimed credit for Trump's victory, remained live. On Sunday, Trump told NBC's Kristen Welker that he has no desire to repair the relationship and warned that Musk could, in his words, face consequences if he tries to help Democrats in upcoming elections.
Oh, boy. Fellas, we're really lucky we didn't have social media when we were growing up and dating our prospective wives. We're lucky.
Tesla stock is down 189 at 324.
And I predict Trump is going to come around. They'll be fast friends again here pretty soon.
The White House broke ground this week on construction projects ordered by the president to pave over the grass in the Rose Garden and install flagpoles on the north and south lawns. Why are you giggling? The projects are part of a series of personal touches.
Put the arcade over here and put the...
all I see is a big boat on a trailer park there, an RV, a couple of water scooters on trailers.
The projects are part of a series of personal touches that the president has added or is adding to the executive mansion and its grounds since he opened his second term in January. The new projects also include new artwork of himself on the walls and gold.
Are they painted on velvet like Elvis?
And gold-toned flourishes in the Oval Office.
Oh, please, God.
He says he also wants to add a ballroom. Reporters noticed that work had begun in the Rose Garden on Monday, just off the Oval Office on the South grounds, when they were taken out to the South Lawn to wait for Trump to return on the Marine One helicopter from an overnight at the Camp David presidential retreat in Maryland. Photos showed that a limestone border that First Lady Melania Trump had added during a Rose Garden renovation during the first term had been removed in some spots, and the grass had been dug up in other spots. Employees of the National Park Service, which maintains the White House grounds, started the work on Monday. It's set to be finished, all of this work, the first half of August. After stepping off the helicopter, Trump walked over to a bulldozer that was on the South Lawn to start digging a foundation for one of the 2 flagpoles he promised in April. One flagpole will be installed on the South Lawn, the second on the North Lawn. The president said he was installing, in his words, 2 beautiful flagpoles paid for by Trump on the grounds because they've needed flagpoles for 200
I bet they were just beautiful.
Didn't Jackie Kennedy create the Rose Garden? I believe you can look that up, and that's true. 2.
I beg your pardon.
Think what?
She was not promised a Rose Garden.
Oh, thank you, Rook.
Never mind. I forgot what I was going to say.
Glenn Anderson, big hit.
This is fun. Why have we allowed this for hundreds of years? Why doesn't somebody step in and say, no more. This is what the White House and the grounds are going to be. Every single president who's been in office since Lincoln has done something stupid. Nixon had a bowling alley in the basement.
Yeah.
Jackie Kennedy is best known for her connection to the White House Rose Garden and her role in its design and beautification. The Rose Garden, located on the west side of the White House, its landscaping began in 1961.
Right, but my point that I was going to make before I was so ridiculously interrupted was that for 70, 60 years, we have had news reports from the Rose Garden. The president said in the Rose Garden, this took place in the Rose Garden today. Now what are you going to say? Well, we are out near the pole.
Oh, we got Kid Rock's RV out in the parking lot. We're having a little shindig out there tonight. Little hootenanny.
Bonfire.
I mean, seriously, Joe, this all has to stop. This should have stopped years ago.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
You done, John?
Put
Thank you.
If you want me to, the whole deal will be nice.
Yeah, that's great.
It'll be nice.
Thanks.
How about North American Banking Company, Joe?
How about it?
One simple philosophy at North American Banking Company, and that's this. It's banking done differently. And guess what? Now's the time. If you've got a big project or an expense coming up, then why not put your home's equity to work? And that's because a home equity line of credit from North American Banking Company is going to give you flexible access to funds when you need them most. Whether it's a home project or at the cabin, an unexpected expense, or something else, their experts make it easy. And your first step can be finding all that information online. It's nabankco.com to learn more. They offer the same online and mobile banking options as the other banks, but the key difference is you're going to get the unparalleled service of a community bank. And they have 6 fantastic Twin Cities locations to serve you, whether it's Roseville, 50th in France, Hastings, Woodbury, Shoreview, or Maple Grove. They are the best. So visit their website today. It's nabankco.com to learn more. It's banking done differently. North American Banking Company member FDIC is an equal housing lender. Time to play.
The Earth is not your mother. The Joe Souchere Show.
I'm reliably grousing about the military parade in Washington. I'm worried about the streets. What does a tank weigh? Jason in Wadena writes, an M1A1 Abrams main battle tank is 68 tons of rolling steel and sex appeal. Best job I ever had.
Nice.
Jason in Wadena. 68
How much?
tons.
68 tons.
My God.
Boy, if one of those went down 7th Street in St. Paul, it'd go
You'd
right
never
through.
see it again.
right through.
It'd end up in China.
Down to China.
He'd at least end up down at the river bottoms, wouldn't he? Come out of the hill.
150,000 pounds, basically.
Holy crap.
Sheesh.
Is that 68 tons?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's a
6
metric ton. It is a
68
metric
times
ton.
2. We were puzzled yesterday as to the difference between classified ads and want ads.
I really wanted to know.
You brought that up.
Yes, I did.
Here's what I wanted to say, but I didn't. It's simply because each little thing is classified. These are home products. These are automobiles. This is tractors. You know what I mean? Is that why it's called classified?
Well, let's go to
in a certain section classified.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kelly Wing in Cross Junction, Virginia.
Oh, that's out east, Joe.
The difference between classified ads and want ads is pretty simple. The want ads were a subsection of classified ads. Classified ads encompassed every single kind of advertisement, including government notices, foreclosures, criminal activity, etc. The want ads were a subsection in which people advertised for things they wanted. This included jobs, relationships, help needed for personal projects, and things to sell. If you remember, the things that were classified were also given a number according to the type of thing it was.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, yeah, like boats 426.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt. That's
that helps me visualize. Yes. What were boats 426?
I don't know if boats were 426, but you're.
Would you like me to look in newspapers.com?
And this one says, do not use my name. I work in Hennepin County as a probation officer, and we have been instructed by the judge we work with to cooperate with ICE. Individuals who express concerns about coming to court in person as to avoid potential arrest by ICE are not allowed to appear remotely via Zoom and must appear in person if the judge directs them to. Additionally, the judge instructed us to ensure this is happening, as we may be held in contempt for assisting individuals in avoiding deportation. We have also been authorized to facilitate ICE contacts with individuals supervised on probation, so long as it is not at a county site, such as the government center. Meaning, if we are doing community visits with our probation clients and ICE contacts us requesting to accompany us to conduct an arrest, we are certainly allowed to do so. So there. And did I tell you that this Saturday is the No Kings? I did tell you about that, yeah. And we could trace that, the backers, all the way to London in terms of who gets paid for that. In this summer of riotous behavior, which unfortunately I predict.
Is that what you're calling the summer of riot?
It is. It's all going to be extremely well organized. Only because they come to us all the way from the traveling Lymans in their temporary home of Eden Prairie. It was on this day, and Tom notes they changed the format on this, and yes, they did.
I was just noticing that.
It was on this day in Minnesota history, this day.
June 11th.
1835, Thomas Williamson and Alexander Huggins organized a church at Fort Snelling, probably the first Protestant church in Minnesota. Although Gideon H. and Samuel W. Pond had started their Dakota mission the year before, they had not yet organized a church. The French had a Catholic mission on Lake Pepin in the 1700s. Well, we've had a guest who's been down there treasure hunting, remember?
Including me.
Yeah. And Father Lucian Gaultier established a Catholic church in Mendota in 1840. The first Presbyterian church of Minneapolis descended from the Fort's church. On this day,
June 11.
In 1849, Minnesota Territory was divided into 3 judicial districts. The first district, the region between the Mississippi River and St. Croix, held court in Stillwater and was presided over by Aaron Goodrich. The second, the lands north of the Minnesota River and west of the Mississippi, held court in St. Anthony, with Bradley B. Meeker as judge. There's also a Meeker County, isn't there?
Yes.
Norman Marshall McCall, Meeker, relax. South of the Minnesota River was the territory of Judge David Cooper, whose court was in Mendota. On this day,
June 11th,
in 1858, Wadena County, named for a trading post on the Crow Wing River, was formed. On this day,
June 11th,
in 1877, the Tom Brown Football Association, an exclusive club for football players, was formed in Minneapolis.
Who's Tom Brown?
Sid covered them, I think.
Okay.
On this day,
June 11th,
in 1899, in an effort to control speeding bicyclists, the St. Paul Police Department established a squad of 12 bicycle officers to patrol the roads and sidewalks, keeping the public safe from scorchers. The speed limits were set at 6 miles per hour on sidewalks and 8 on streets.
I'm picturing Dangle from Reno 911, Lieutenant Dangle.
I'm picturing handlebar mustaches.
Oh, yeah, right.
And finally, on this day,
on June 11th,
in 1945, Nellie Stone Johnson, union organizer and activist, was elected to the Minneapolis Library Board. She was the first African American elected to a citywide post in Minneapolis. And on this date in Minnesota sports history,
on June 11th,
no items were posted.
Really? Wow. Nothing but success.
All throughout the history of Minnesota sports. On this day, June 11th, there was never a disappointment.
Because all of our winter teams were already eliminated.
That's it. And the baseball team probably had an off day.
Right.
Every June 11th.
Mm-hmm.
Although they don't today. They got beat by Texas last night, 452-1.
That was a butt kicking.
And they're playing again tonight. Thank you, you GLers, you.
Yeah.
Please do us a favor and search for Garage Logic on YouTube. Yeah, Garage Logic has a YouTube channel, and you can watch the show each and every single day, starting right around noon. You can also interact with the show live each and every single day, starting at noon. Just search for Garage Logic, where you can also see full segments. There's video shorts. There's behind-the-scenes footage in some cases. It's all there for you, though. Just search Garage Logic on YouTube. And search for all of our social media channels. Garage Logic, that is. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you haven't done so yet, download, sign up for the Daily Logician. Wow. Yeah, that email comes to your inbox each and every single day, and it includes the most recent episode of the podcast, and you can find it on the website, which is, of course, garagelogic.com. Time once again to check in with our guy, Mr. Money Talk. Josh Arnold is with us once again right here in Garage Logic, and now is the time for you to do the same. So do not delay. Do exactly what I did and pick up that phone and dial 952-925-5608. That number once again is 952-925-5608. When you call that number, you're going to get Josh, and he is there for you for that free, yes, I use the word free, 48-minute financial consultation with absolutely zero obligation. And he will always give you the straight talk. He will never give you the sugar-coated advice. And he is on the line with us once again right here in Garage Logic. And boy, Josh, tariff talk seems to continue to dominate the talk in the marketplace. What's the latest today?
Tariffs. We'll start with the ending. The highest tariff that you're going to be, or that China is going to be paying, or companies importing products from China, the highest tariff is going to be 55%. There still is the blanket tariff of 30% on products coming in from China into the United States, and an additional 25% on specific products. So the max tariff is going to be 55%, but that's not going to be, of course, on everything coming into the United States. The max tariff with U.S. product going into China is 10%, and I'm sure that there are some specific exceptions to that, but that is definitely a win-win for the negotiators, both on the Chinese side and on the U.S. side. The deal, of course, has to be finalized by President Xi and President Trump. The Secretary of Commerce was very thrilled with the deal and how positive things worked out. Probably the big thing is that the U.S. gets magnets and rare earth minerals starting now. So that is a big thing. Now, just in terms of rare earths and magnets, when these tariffs were introduced on April 2nd, quote unquote, Liberation Day, I said the next day on Thursday on this program, these tariffs are punitive and they are stupid. Stupid. And I continue to emphasize the people putting on these tariffs did not know the consequences of their actions. They put the tariffs on without sewing up prior to that a deal on rare earth metal and magnets, among other things. Not very brilliant. And I still believe that the consequences of these tariffs have not been completely felt. Yes, it probably brought China back to the bargaining table. And yes, it probably will bring several other countries back to the bargaining table. But the damage, I think, still has not been felt in our economy. And I say still has not been felt. The CPI numbers came out for May today and definitely did not show a lot of inflation. The increase month to month of 0.1% from April to May was below estimates, and the year-over-year inflation also was below estimates. Part of that, of course, is the price of oil has come down significantly. So we'll see as time goes on, the impact that tariffs had. Now, favorite Apple has been under fire not only recently, but most of the year on concerns about the tariffs, concerns about, I'll say, both the EU and the U.S. government going after them on the monopoly of, or their supposed monopoly, and I'd say supposed monopoly on apps and even on their monopoly of smartphones, at least here in the United States. I kind of laugh at that because there is still plenty of competition. Apple does have a tremendous amount of money, and of course, governments want a piece of that. Market players are disappointed, and we're in Apple's delay of their artificial intelligence application, particularly when it comes to Siri. And analysts have been coming out with, and I'm not going to say without exception, but with only a few people, such as myself, maintaining their strong buy on the company. Now, that's not to say in the short term that the stock price won't go down and test the recent April low. But every time I have seen Apple backed up or taking their time on some issue that analysts thought should already be out in the market, and I have owned Apple long enough, my clients have owned Apple long enough, dating back to 2004, that the stock is seen numerous declines of 35 to 50%, only to bounce back and come back stronger in each instance. So with a lot of the concern about Apple and AI and the concern with tariffs, because Apple is not getting any special dispensation at this point, and Apple, as well as Samsung and other non-U.S. manufacturers of smartphones, well, they could see a tariff hit specifically for them of 25% starting in July. But we're still, we'll say, several weeks out to see if there's any progress in that negotiation. So just a word of caution on Apple that there are people as a result of these tariff discussions that we're hoping, for a little bit more news that could boost the shares immediately. I think that's still several weeks or more out. But the good news, Chris, is we do have the framework for progress in tariff talks between the U.S. and China.
Excellent advice, as always, Mr. Money Talk. You heard him, GLers. Now is the time for you to pick up the phone and make the call for that free 48-minute financial consultation, again, with zero obligation. And you will always get the straight talk. You will never get the sugar-coated advice, and you will always get Mr. Money Talk. Josh, as always, thank you so much for the time and the chat. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Will do. Thanks, Chris.
Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant LLC, a security investment advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments involve risk. All comments and opinions are Josh Arnold's and do not constitute investment advice.
Chris Reavers is a paid endorser.